let's just jump right into this. So today we're going to do a sort of like a pretty flower meadow with like a distant mountain and some beautiful vibrant clouds. This is going to be a really vibrant, awesome piece. So first we're going to work from back to front. So we're going to put a wash of kind of like blue to like a golden orange sunset. So we're going to go ahead and mix 3 colors. Okay, so here's what we're gonna mix up. I've got 3 colors here. We got the first color is white and some orange. The second color is white with a little bit of medium yellow and orange. And then the third color we have some white with cobalt blue, a little bit of cobalt blue. So we'll go ahead and mix that up and see what we get. Okay, so I do like this first color and the third color, but this middle color, I'm gonna add just a little bit of white and yellow. I want it to be a little bit of a golden yellow, a little bit more golden. All right, there we go. And this is perfect. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna grab an 1.25 inch mop brush. This is goat hair. And so it's really soft. It's gonna be perfect for applying our colors. And then I've also got an 1.25 inch flat brush, which will be great to use dry, and we'll be able to blend our sky together. So our horizon is going to be somewhere towards the middle. So I'm going to put the orange color about in the middle area first, and we'll go with our yellow above that and our blue at the top. So we'll go ahead and get some water on our brush. We'll go straight into that orange. And I'll just do kind of like circular brush strokes. You can grab a little more paint down here. Maybe a little bit more water. We kind of want, whoa, not that much. You kind of want to see like bubbles like this. You definitely don't want it to run down the canvas like that, but that's okay. This is going to get covered up, so not really a big deal. Get some more paint. Now what we can do is we can go straight into our yellow, grab a little more water, and start to work that. Then we can grab our blue, straight into our blue. Now what we can do, we can just go straight with that flat brush. And I'm just going to do back and forth horizontal brush strokes. We'll start at the bottom here. And we'll just work our way up. I'm going to sort of do like this curved shape up towards the corner, you'll notice. Because I kind of want this sweeping sky. It's pretty good, but what we can do is we can go ahead and dry our brush off real quick. Grab a paper towel. We'll just dry it off. And then we can come back at the bottom very lightly. You know what, I'm just going to add a little bit of orange to kind of fix what I just did right there. Acrylic is pretty forgiving when you do something like that. You know, we'll just go ahead and add some orange right here. There's still a little bit wet, so we can kind of work it up and blend it a bit. Maybe we'll add just a touch of yellow above that. Some more right here. There we go. Now we can just let that dry, and we'll come back and start to create some clouds, and we'll get sort of this bright glow, like maybe the sun is over here and we've got some really bright parts of the sky. So I'm just going to let this air dry for about 10 minutes and I'll be right back to mix up some new colors. Alright, so we're back, and all I did was I let this dry while I waited. I just cleaned my brushes and got some fresh water here. And then I also started looking at what colors we're going to use for these clouds. So for the clouds, I've got some white with ultramarine blue, and this is crimson. About the same amount of each, crimson and ultramarine blue. And then for our highlight on the clouds, I've got white and just a little bit of orange and a bit more of that medium yellow. And then over here, this is going to be like our bright sun highlights for the clouds. And it's just white and medium yellow. So we'll go ahead and mix this up and see if we like it. Okay, so I like this orange that we got, but I want to add just a little bit more yellow over here to get this a little bit less pale. And then I'm also going to try to get most of that kind of orange from over here off, but I'm just going to come over and some of that orange will mix in here, which is okay. Not a whole lot will mix into it, but we'll get that nice yellow bright yellow that we're looking for now. And there we go. And then now I'm just gonna go ahead and rinse this off, or wipe this off real quick before we go to mix this color, because I don't want that yellow to get in there. It'll kind of muddy it up. I want this to be a little darker, so I'm gonna add some more ultramarine blue into it, and then we'll mix that up. Hold on, let me, before I mix this, let me go ahead and shut the blinds. It's sunset right now, so it's kind of casting this horrible shadow. All right. Now I'm gonna go into this yellow, or bright yellow, and we're gonna try to get some streaks over here. So I'm just gonna grab just a little bit. We'll start with a little bit. Make sure you can see that. Just getting a little bit first. And I'm just going to probably go like this. Use that kind of flat side of it and just work some of it. Kind of like some little streaks here. I'll just grab a little more paint. Every time I go down, I'm just gonna grab a little bit more and get it on the edge of that little flat brush. By the way, this is a number 2 flat brush. So we'll kind of pick and choose. I think like we'll have the brightest part right here. So maybe the sun or something is right there. We'll have a little streak of cloud right below it, maybe. And I'll just let it sort of blend off of my brush. Dry brush a little bit. Kind of let it run dry. And it'll kind of blend into that background. Even though it's dry, it's a dry on dry technique. And it'll kind of blend right back there. I'll let it run right off the canvas here. And I'll just grab some more paint here. Sort of strengthen this little area right here. I'll just add more paint kind of in this central area. This will be where the sun is maybe behind the clouds. Maybe we have a more prominent cloud right here. Just grabbing small amounts of paint and slowly building this area. Again, kind of building up that central area a little bit with the second layer. There we go. I think that's good. That's kind of what I want. Nothing too crazy, but that is pretty good. I think maybe we'll just add a little bit more on this bottom part. There we go. Now I'll just rinse off the brush real quick. Dry it up. And now what we can do is we can go ahead and grab some of our, let's grab some of our orange over here. Grab a little bit of that. And we'll kind of do the same thing. And I'm just gonna make, maybe these would be some more prominent clouds. So I'll go ahead and get some thicker paint this time. I'm kind of imagining some clouds that they kind of come all the way down to about this central area over here. Just this little back and forth using the flat part of the flat brush. And again, we'll just let that paint run dry. So like this little bit of paint right here, pick it up and just let it blend out. Flip the brush over, there's a little more paint on that side. Let it blend out. Perfect. Then maybe we'll grab a little bit of our purple now. And I'll come kind of on the top side of this. Like a shadow. I'll just very carefully start to blend some of that out on the back side of those clouds. Grab a little more. Kind of break it up a little bit. You see that? You see how you get that nice effect? Maybe there's another layer of clouds right below it. There's a shadow. It's got to blend out. I'll just kind of break up some of this, put a few little lines and stuff. Like there's little shadows here and there. Awesome. Okay. Now what we'll do, now that we've got these nice wispy clouds, what I like to call them, just using that flat brush technique that I showed you, I want to get into some more fluffier clouds up here. And for that, we're going to switch over to, I'm going to switch over to another goat hair brush. This one though is a number 2. But it's 3/4 inches, just a round 3/4 inch mop brush. And we are going to get into some of our purple. And we'll just start with a little bit. We're still going to kind of do this dry brush technique. I don't want to go too thick with the paint because we've got this nice dry brush blend going. And I'm going to do some sort of light circles. We're going to try to get some more fluffier layers of clouds here. So I'm going to leave a little gap between these wispy clouds, and I'm going to start finding some of these softer clouds. And so we'll leave this little gap of sky between them. And maybe there's a layer right here. And just little circles. I'll go ahead and zoom in so you can see this. It's a little better, hopefully. And so, just doing these little circles. You see how it starts to get dry again? That's perfect. It's kind of what we want. We can even let some of that come out a bit. Grab a little more paint here. Very lightly. And I'm leaving some gaps as well. I kind of like that here. Having a few gaps in the clouds. Not quite off the canvas, but we'll come a little bit further over here with it. Maybe we'll bring some of it off the canvas right here. We'll just let some little wispy ones live up here. Kind of just seeing what looks good to us. think that's pretty good. Okay, now what we can do, we can go ahead and rinse that off. And what I'm going to do actually is we'll come back with our number 2 flat brush and we'll grab our orange here. And remember, our light source is here, so our highlights are going to be on the bottom sides of these clouds. But we have layers, so we're going to hit these layers of clouds on the bottom side. So we'll just choose a spot. Very carefully, just maybe some little circular strokes. And we can kind of blend it upwards into that purple a bit. Just a little bit. Go back, grab some more. Just gently blend it up. You see, just start to find those layers. Hit the bottom side of your purple. And you can just gently blend it a bit. And that's all there is to it. Okay, now that we have our clouds pretty much done, we're just going to add a little bit more white to our yellow here. And that'll just give us a nice highlight color. And what we can do is we'll come back very carefully and I'll bring out a small liner brush. This is a 000 liner brush, but just a small liner brush will do. And what we'll do is we're going to take our highlight here, and I'm going to place it on the very brightest part on the edge of our orange now, just to make it pop out even more. So I'm going to get a little bit of water this time to help with our flow here. some water. Just roll the brush. And I'm gonna choose a few bright spots here. Where it is the brightest. There we go. And we'll just go do the same with our clouds up here as well. Be a bit more careful here. Try to have a steady hand. You can kind of use your finger to blend it a bit if you put too much down. And there we go. Maybe we'll put one more up here. A few more little lines. Okay. Now we can do the same thing to all of our clouds up here. And then what we can do, we can just add a few little, maybe there's a few little floating clouds out here with that highlight, with that watered down highlight. Just a few little things here and there. And there we go. I think that does it for the sky. And I'll come right back and we'll start looking at our mountains in the distance. All right, so now that we got our sky complete and it's fully dry, we're gonna go ahead and come in with some really distant mountains to make a horizon, basically. So we're gonna go ahead and mix up sort of a grayish purple, I think, so that it gives the effect that it's far away. So what I have here is some ultramarine blue, a little bit of crimson, and some burnt umber here. So I'm gonna mix this together. We'll see what we get. I might end up adding a little bit of white to this. And that gives us a really nice, rich purple. So I'm just gonna add just a touch of white to this, just a little bit, to barely lighten it up and gray it out just a little bit. And there we go, that's a little bit better. All right, so now I'm gonna go back with our number 2 flat brush here. And we're just gonna grab some of that paint. And we're gonna kind of find where we want the ridge of our distant mountains. I think I kind of want it to be just below this bright sun right here. So I'll just put a mark, and I'm just going to bring it all the way off the side of the canvas. There's a little bit of ridges, you know. This is where you're creating your outline. So I kind of want it to be pretty flat through here. And I'm just grabbing some more paint every time I go down. But then as I kind of reach this midway point, I might start to bring this mountain up a bit. You know, maybe there's this little peak here. And maybe it comes up a little bit and off the canvas. And you just want to kind of clean up that edge. You know, we don't want super thick paint, so I'm just kind of cleaning up that edge a bit. Not really too worried about the bottom part of this mountain because we're going to end up covering this with a field. So you can go ahead and blend that paint, you know, out at the bottom. I'm just going to grab some more paint. I want to make sure that this is a nice dark silhouette here. I don't want it, because you can kind of see some of this orange through here right now. So I'm just going to put kind of a second layer here. And I'll start to work that in a bit. Little accident there as I'm trying to go grab more paint. That is fine. That is going to get covered up. That is the beauty of acrylic. You know, you can just smooth that out a bit so it's not, you know, we don't really want texture there, but that can get covered up really easily. All right. I like this. I like the way this is looking. I love doing mountains. I'm almost tempted to just make a huge mountain right here, but for this scene, I don't want this to be the main focus, really. It's kind of just, you know, enhancing the scene, giving it some depth. And here I'm just kind of keeping my brush strokes maybe with the shape of the mountain, or the contour of the mountain. So I'm going to go kind of brush down. That'll kind of help give the illusion of mountains, that they're mountains. Even though they're really far, it does kind of almost look like you have some distant detail back there, just with those brush strokes like that. Alright, I think that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and rinse off the brush a bit, get some of that paint off of there. What I want to do is kind of soften up some of these edges here. They're really sharp, and I want this to blend a bit with our sunset right here. Maybe I'll leave some of this side, but over here I want to blend it a little bit. So this is kind of a damp brush. I just rinsed it off and dried it a little bit, but I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna see if we can't blend some of this edge. I'm just doing little circular motions. And just some kind of back and forth. I think what I'll do is I'll just take a very small amount of paint and I'll just work it very, very gently on this edge. And it's okay that I picked up a little bit of paint right there, as you can see. We'll just go back and redefine the mountain once we're done with this part. Alright, I think that's good for now. I think I'll just go ahead and, like I said, grab a little bit of paint and just fix that little spot right there. And there we go. I think we can move on for now. We're going to go ahead and mix up a lighter green to put towards the back here and a slightly darker green. And we're going to block in this front area because I want to put a nice meadow here, and there's going to be a lot of pretty wildflowers in the front. So we'll need a base for those to sit on. Okay, so here I have some sap green and some yellow ochre, and then also have a small amount of ultramarine blue to sort of cool it down a little bit. And we're going to mix this up and see what the skit says, and if we have to adjust, we will. Okay, I really like what that gave us, but what I want to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of burnt umber to the side here. And what we'll do is we'll take some of that color there and we'll mix it right in. And that'll give us these two really nice natural green colors. And we can make a gradient with our lighter green towards the back and this little bit darker green up in the front to just block in this area. So that's what we'll go ahead and do, and for that we can just use number 8 flat brush so we get some more coverage here. So here we go, grab some green, the lighter green, and then we'll just go ahead and find all the way up to the base of this mountain. We'll just come straight across. We'll go ahead and come up a little bit higher. We'll kind of follow the contour of the mountain. So we'll start a little high here, and then we'll sort of make our way. I'll get just a touch of water, kind of helps, you know, get this paint moving on the canvas, and it helps me find the edge and cover. Now we can just start grabbing a bunch of our green, our lighter green, and just covering this whole area. Just little back and forward motions like that, or straight across horizontally. At this point, I'm just grabbing all of the light green that I have now, and I'm just going to pretty much blend it down as far as I can until I run out, which is pretty much right now. And then what we can do is start grabbing our darker green, placing that at the bottom. Just throw it all on there, and we'll start working it as well to cover all this area. Make sure we get the sides of the canvas, the bottom, and we'll just work it up slowly into our lighter green here. And a lot of this is going to get covered with flowers, so it doesn't have to be a perfect gradient here where they meet, but we will just blend it up a little bit. Our main goal really is just to cover all of that white of the canvas and get a color that is close to what I want, a good kind of darker base, so that when we start putting some of our vibrant flowers over it and some of our lighter blades of grass, it'll pop, and these will kind of act as like the shadows underneath. Now what I'll do, I'll just let this dry for about 10 minutes and then we'll come back to this. Okay, so now what we want to do is we're going to add some grass textures. And for this painting, I want to be a little bit more bold, so I'm going to use a liner brush. This is like a 000 liner brush, or like a 0 liner brush will work. And we're going to mix a lighter green that will go over this background color. Okay, so I decided to make 3 colors here. So we've got a color for the blades of grass at our far distance, and we've got a middle color for our middle ground, and a third color for close to us. So for the distant color, we've got sap green, a little bit of white, and a little bit of ultramarine blue. Then for that middle ground color, we've got sap green, some medium yellow, and just a touch of burnt umber. And then that foreground color is sap green, phthalo green, and a little bit of burnt umber. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this number 2 flat brush. It's got some really stiff bristles, and it should be good for getting some little grass texture here. So I'm just going to grab a little bit on the end of the brush. Then we'll come in here and just kind of press and flick up. Change the direction of your flicks, so kind of flick off to the right, flick to the left. You want that variation. Just very lightly. And as I get further towards the midground, those flicks are going to be a little bit longer. We want that grass to look like it's taller. So as we start to get towards the middle ground, I'm going to switch over to our middle ground color that we mixed up. We can start to put that in here. We don't want to cover up all of this dark base. We just want to give some texture. Maybe a few spots will come back up. Place some of that middle ground color. Okay, now I'll go into our foreground color that we mixed up. And I'll just choose some little spots here and there where I'll bring some of that foreground color up. A little bit. Bring some of that middle ground color here and there. Into the foreground. We can just add a little bit of white. And we can come with that liner brush and start making some grasses. You can just add some water. You can just add some water and kind of roll it like this. It'll make it really easy to get those flicks of grass. Then I'll also just mix with that third color, some white. And I'm basically just going to go between these colors and create some individual blades of grass, and some of these are going to act as our stems for some of our flowers. And of course, the blades of grass closest to us are going to be very tall. As we move kind of backwards, they're going to get shorter. Then some of these I'll just come in and maybe add a leaf here and there. And this is kind of like a base because we're going to put a lot of flowers here, so a lot of this will get covered up and we'll kind of leave behind some of the individual things we like. Alright, I think we're ready to start putting in some of our distant flowers here. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm mixing up basically a pink that's going to be grayed out a tiny bit, a yellow that'll be grayed out a little bit, and a white that'll be grayed out just a little bit. So we've got crimson, white, and Payne's gray for our distant pink flower, and we've got medium yellow, titanium white, and a little bit of Payne's gray for our distant yellow flower. And for our distant white flower, we just have some Payne's gray and titanium white. And there we go. So now what I want to do is I have an artist sponge, and I'm just going to use it to grab some of these colors, and we'll start to place it in the distance. Then I'll go into our yellow. Just add a few here and there. And then our white. Just a couple spots back here. Okay, now we're pretty much done with the artist sponge. Now we can come with our number 2 flat brush again. And we can grab some of our pink. And maybe choose a few spots where there's some bigger flowers maybe. Just kind of filling in the horizon up here. And we'll do the same with the yellow. We'll choose a few spots where maybe there's a bigger flower. Just kind of making little circles. And we can do the same with our kind of off-white here. Now we want to bring some vibrance, a little more vibrance into our middle ground. So I'll just add a little bit more yellow to our yellow color. A bit more white to our gray. And also a little more white up here to our pink. I also need to add a little more crimson here because it kind of ran out. And I'll go ahead and mix those up real quick. I just went ahead and added a little more white here to our yellow mixture and a little bit more white for our white mixture down here. Wipe this off between colors so we don't contaminate. We're basically just trying to achieve a little bit more saturation since we're now a little closer to us. And so basically adding a little more color to it, less gray, and some more white. Then we'll come with our number 2 flat brush and we'll just start to make some bigger flowers as we get closer to us. And we can start to think about individual petals a little more. And of course we can switch to another color now, to our yellow. Just kind of do the same thing. And as we get closer to this foreground, we can start to look at the blades of grass and kind of put those flowers atop of those. Also, as these flowers start to get closer to us, we can start to open up the flowers and almost have them facing you, as you can see with this one here and here. We can go to our white. Then we can start to make some bigger flowers. Now what we can do is we can get some pure yellow, some pure crimson and a little bit of white, and then pure white to start getting the very close flowers to us and making them more vibrant. And for that, I'm going to come with this #1 round brush. It'll just help me be a little more precise with some of these flowers, some of these petals. Okay, now I'm going to take an artist sponge and I'm going to go back into our grayed out color a bit because I want to kind of get some in between these green areas where our big flowers aren't. We kind of need to blend this area out a bit. Alright, I think that's good. Now we're going to mix up something for the center of our flowers. So this is a little bit of burnt umber, yellow ochre, and some orange. Just going to add a little more orange to that. And maybe a little bit of this white from down here. We can take our number 1 brush, and then some of these flowers that are open, we can put some of this center. Then what I want to do is I'll just grab some yellow, a little bit of yellow, and I'll just add a few kind of like little dots over what we just put in the center. We can mix some white and Payne's gray together. Then we can take our liner brush and we can start to put some shadow sort of in between the petals and a little bit of outline. To make these stand out a bit.
And with that, we have a finished painting. I really hope y'all enjoyed painting along with me today. This scene was really fun to do, and I hope you learned something from it. Let me know down in the comments if you have any suggestions for full scenes and tutorials that you want. I hope to see y'all again next week, and as always, peaceful painting.